But I'm not really concerned, guys. I think you saw a lot of good things out of Perkins. I feel really good about Perkins as, QB3, and I think he's done enough to really make it tough for the Rams to cut him. That's the type of, preseason game you want to see out of him. Obviously, the interception, not the best on the box score, so to speak, and you don't like to see it. But at the same time, it's context, and I think really the coaching staff was saying go and take a shot downfield, and I'm sure that's all that was. So, yeah, exactly. It's a win. We didn't see too many bad injuries. Hopefully Raymond Calais checks out okay. He did not come back in the game. Bummer for him, was his opportunity to finally play the running back spot, but we did see a lot of Xavier Jones. The final box score here, the final stats, I'll just read them out to you. We have Bryce Perkins going 26 of 39, 208 yards, 2 touchdowns, an interception, was sacked once for 6 yards, and had 86.3 passer rating to go with his 9 carries for 41 yards rushing. Xavier Jones had 7 carries for 29 yards, averaging 4.1 yards per carry, including a long of 12. And let's not forget Jake Funk, who also had 7 carries for 56 yards, going for an average of 8 yards per carry on a 19-yard long, which is the longest run of the day. We had Tutu Atwell taking 1 carry for -2 yards, and we had Raymond Calais taking 3 carries for 5 yards, including a long run of 4. The receiving game, we had our leading receiver, J.J. Koski, coming in with 8 catches for 61 yards. We had Landon Akers coming in with 5 catches for 49 yards. Tutu Atwell coming in with 8 catches for 46 yards. And we saw Xavier Jones get a catch for 10 yards. Kendall Blanton a catch for 9 yards. Bryson Hopkins 2 catches for 31 yards. Jacob Harris come down with 1 catch for 2 yards and a touchdown. On the defensive side of the ball, we did get to see some contributions. The most tackles for anybody on the defensive side was Ernest Jones with 6. We saw 1.5 sacks from Chris Garrett, the rookie. Eric Banks chimed in with a sack, and a half sack went to Jonah Williams. Tackle for loss, we had 4 on the day. Eric Banks, 1 for Chris Garrett, 1 for Bobby Brown III, and 1 for John Daka. We had 2 pass breakups for J.R. Reed, 2 pass breakups for Chris Garrett, 1 for Christian Roseboom, 1 for Bronte Harris, and 1 for Juju Hughes. A quarterback hit was actually went to Eric Banks. We had 3 quarterback hits going to Chris Garrett, 1 going to Jonah Williams. And then to wrap it up here, we had 2 interceptions. 1 went to J.R. Reed, and 1 went to Bronte Harris. So that is everything there for the stats. All in all, the winner of the day, I think, was Chris Garrett. He really showed his ability to translate from D2 to actually play. Anyone can knock preseason, but when Chris Garrett is going up, a 7th-round rookie pass rusher is going up against Patrick Omameh, who is not great by any stretch, but he's an NFL quality player. He's been in the league for 9 years now. If you're going to say that he just went up against Patrick Omameh, you're not understanding the broader implications here. Chris Garrett proved today that his talent is not only going to translate from D2, but he has a chance to actually play early on in the regular season this year, going up against an actual former NFL starter. So I feel really good about that. Bryce Perkins, to me, played really well. Obviously, there's some kinks there where, he threw that interception. There are some missed throws. He's going to have them, but you see the comfortability of him in the offense. John Wolford has the QB2 spot locked up clearly, but Bryce Perkins is definitely making a case for them to keep 3 if they weren't considering it. Saw some good things out of Xavier Jones and what he can do out of the backfield. He did have a potential touchdown taken away due to an offensive hold. That is something to keep in mind. On top of that, Jake Funk looked really good today, especially the 19-yard run. You see the jolt in Jake Funk, and you can see why the Rams aren't exactly worried about the running back position. They're not out there trying to find a go-to running back right now. They feel good with what they have. Jake Funk has actually taken over the running back 3 spot, and I don't think they expected that when they drafted him. But they also have Raymond Calais. We'll see how his injury checks out. That's definitely something to keep in mind. To me, the tight ends, I think Jacob Harris wasn't used as much as you would have liked to see. I think a lot of that is they're holding back truly what Jacob Harris can do, because I think they're going to use him. He's going to have a role this year. I do like that they tried him at the end. To me, that just basically, I wouldn't be surprised if they told Bryce Perkins to try to go after Jacob Harris both times. Try to get him those reps, see what he does with them. Now, in this day, this time period right now, we're seeing tight ends become more focal points of offenses. And I think the Rams are not ahead of the curve because you already have your George Kittles, your Travis Kelce's, your Darren Wallers. But I think that pick was trying to get them on that level, get them competing in that regard. So I'm not surprised, they've been going that route. Looking at the receivers, pretty good day out of Landon Akers. I think he's earned his spot on the practice squad. I think that's a guy that they'll want to keep. At this point, I think Jeremiah Haydell is going to be one of the cuts that they make to get down to the 80-man roster. I do think that J.J. Koski has also done enough to make the practice squad, but it's going to be up to if Tristan Jackson plays in week 3 of the preseason. It's going to be up to those two, I think, because Skoranek can't make the roster. He is hurt. He's not going to play for the first however many weeks, broken forearm. So I do think they're keeping an extra receiver, and I think it's going to be between Landon Akers, J.J. Koski, and Tristan Jackson after, of course, Tutu Atwell. So I'm curious to see where that goes. I thought today Landon Akers' stock rose. I thought J.J. Koski just kind of showed you what he can do, leading the receivers today. And then, of course, the offensive line, pretty bad. I'm going to have to go and look at the tape for sure to be able to tell you who really played well and who didn't. It's really hard when, bodies are flying everywhere. But I can tell you right now, number 71, Bobby Evans, is on the chopping block right now. He is not in good shape. I understand he was a third-round pick, but sometimes you realize that a guy just isn't cutting it. And I don't think all of a sudden he went from being the starting right guard in minicamp to not being a starter. I don't think that had as much to do with Brian Allen earning his way as the center as it did with them being that worried about Bobby Evans. Because today, I'm sorry, in the fourth quarter, you're telling me in the fourth quarter, Bobby Evans is playing against guys that aren't even going to be on the roster, and you're telling me he can't stay in there and help out Bryce Perkins in the pocket? That's unacceptable to me. So I'm definitely worried about, Bobby Evans not making the team. I'm worried about him if he does make the team. To me, I'm crossing him off my list as depth. I think the Rams lost a piece today. I think, we kind of had a feeling that could happen, but consider me a Bobby Evans truther. I'm sorry if that offends anyone. I'm not trying to hate on the guy personally, but, my job here is to keep it real and be honest, and I don't think they have a true depth piece in Bobby Evans. I think they have a guy that's versatile, as in he can play tackle and guard, but I don't think he can play it that well. Tremaine Ankrum, had some moments, but I also am really curious to see Tremaine Ankrum if he were to have to step into a game in the regular season with the starters, how good he would look. Because as bad as Bobby Evans was today, keep in mind, Tremaine Ankrum was playing next to him. It's the Joe Barksdale, Davin Joseph effect. If you guys remember Davin Joseph playing right guard, Joe Barksdale playing right tackle, Barksdale all of a sudden went from being really good to really struggling. And if you don't have a running mate next to you that can play at the same level you're playing, hate to break it to you, but your play is going to go down with him most of the time. So that was an issue there. Like I said, I'll have to look more into it. Due to the injury of Ankrum, who I think was expected to start the rest of the game, we did actually end up seeing Chandler Brewer, who's normally a left guard. He went over to right tackle, which is another, kind of crazy thing. Why didn't Evans play right tackle? He actually was drafted as a tackle. So a lot of confusion there. Noteboom not getting in any of these games is a really good sign for him long term. They might really just value him as the heir to the throne after Whitworth. So I feel really confident that Noteboom is going to be the sixth man this year for the offensive line. And I feel really confident in Ankrum. The fact he can play all 5 positions, they keep raving about him. He didn't have the best game today, and he did get hurt. But last week, he was one of the bright spots, so I feel good about him. We already touched on the tight ends a little bit with Jacob Harris, but I will say, Bryson Hopkins made a few plays where might help his case a little bit. I still think he's a little bit too close to the borderline of making the roster than I'd like him to be. But you do see, some flashes there of his ability getting open. He was not an ultra, but a pretty athletic receiving tight end coming out of college. So, I definitely like that he was getting the opportunities today. Kendall Blanton, good to get that touchdown. For him, I definitely think Blanton is probably a practice squad candidate. I don't necessarily see him knocking a Bryson Hopkins off the rosters because I don't think he has the long-term upside and potential that, say, a Hopkins does. But I definitely think Jacob Harris is ahead of Hopkins, with that. Moving on to the defensive side of the ball, I thought you saw some really great things out of Chris Garrett. We already talked a little bit about it, but I see people are joining late here. Chris Garrett straight up was a man amongst boys today. Okay? He did exactly what we saw last week with Lawler. Lawler drew the long straw there. He had to go up against, the rough, tough left tackle, or rather right tackle for the Raiders, and Alex Leatherwood, their first-round pick out of Alabama. And I thought he did a nice job, Leatherwood, at stopping a guy that just absolutely toasted the Chargers last week in Justin Lawler. Lawler played for a bit and really didn't do much. A guy that came in to replace him, Ernest Brown, didn't do much against, the guy that replaced Leatherwood. So there wasn't a ton going on there, but the other side of the defensive line, you got a lot of pressure from, Chris Garrett. But the thing that was great about Chris Garrett is the active hands. If you're not going to get to the quarterback, get your hands up and knock the ball down. And that's what Harris did. Having 2 pass breakups as an edge defender is very impressive. And it shows you he's not just a pass rusher either. It shows you that he can do a little bit of everything. We talked about the coverage skills he had against, the Cowboys in the joint practice. Felt really good about what he did in that, environment. And then, of course, I thought he played pretty well against the Chargers, albeit I don't think he played a ton. But then you get to see him, in action starting, against the Raiders tonight. And I thought he looked great. So the game ball would definitely go to Chris Garrett. I thought you saw some good things out of John Daka. Potentially could make a practice squad, probably going to get cut, but, he did have a nice tackle for a loss, applying pressure. Once again, Jonah Williams, to me, stood out in the defensive line. I think Jonah Williams has done a really nice job throughout camp and throughout preseason. To me, if Jonah Williams makes the roster, I wouldn't be shocked. I think he's outplayed Eric Banks, who did have a pretty good day today. I think he's outplayed Marquise Copeland. And I think he's outplayed Michael Hoyt. So if you're looking for that last guy to make the defensive line, if there is a spot available, to me, I would give it to Jonah Williams, who's just continued to up the ante and has played better, every time I see him. Moving on, of course, to the inside linebackers. Was a little bummed today with Jake Gervais. That's been my guy. I don't think he had the best day. He does show that athleticism, that raw athletic ability, and why they transferred him to linebacker. But I think that's going to be, and maybe it was ignorant for me to just immediately think he would make an impact, because athleticism is great and all, but he's been playing safety for so long. To transfer to linebacker, unless you're Mark Barron, it's really hard to do that. And so for him, I think he's a very intriguing prospect for the Rams that you're going to want to have on your practice squad. You're going to want to develop and actually see if he can play the linebacker position, have him come back next year and try out and see if, you can make that work. And I do think you can. So I wouldn't give up on him today. I understand a lot of people are saying cut Gervais. You're not wrong. But what I would say is that keep him on the practice squad, let him develop with the coaching staff, and let him learn, and give him an opportunity to compete next year, see how well the strides he's made. You converted him to linebacker. So let's see if that linebacker position, he can actually make that change. It doesn't happen overnight. So, I would say give him another year and, potentially we'll see what comes of it. He's still young. I believe he's 24 years old, so this isn't a guy that isn't incapable. And on top of that, he's already played in the NFL. He actually suited up for the Rams-Jets game. So, I think that is what I would say about Gervais. Roseboom had a hell of a play in coverage. Now, they actually decided to not suit up Kenny Young or Troy Reeder, which to me tells me that they've made the roster. It is interesting that they suited up Micah Kiser, but they might have been experimenting him with the green dot since he didn't use it last year because John Johnson used it. So him, Ernest Jones, Gervais, Roseboom, and then Travin Howard, who immediately just blew off the page because Travin Howard just shows up on film. When you look at that speed, the sideline-to-sideline ability, it's not hard to see why they like Travin Howard. And I definitely think he'll make the roster. Not worried about that at all. So Travin Howard, I thought, definitely showed you some potential there. Kiser didn't really stand out to me. He stood out to me in the joint practice against the Cowboys. As I said, he was one of the winners of that day. Ernest Jones made a couple of huge plays, including the one near the goal line that put him at 4th and goal. That was a hell of a stop there to get in there and make a play on Peterman. So the linebackers, overall, you want to see better from them, but I thought Roseboom came out looking the best of the day. Since Travin didn't play a ton, Roseboom came in crunch time. I thought he made a huge play. I believe it was on a 3rd down. Coming away with that pass breakup was absolutely huge near the end zone there. So that's what I would say in that regard. The corners, it's tough. I'm not watching all 22 film. We're all watching that, that Gamecast film, right? We're seeing the regular broadcast, we're seeing the broadcast picture. So it's hard to really evaluate the corners. But what I would say is that, I liked some of the stuff I saw from Bronte Harris. I liked that he stayed with, it was Keelan Doss down the sideline on that play. And I gave him crap immediately because it looked like he didn't cover him, but that's one of those things all 22 will show you. He was right there. And on the replay, you see Keelan Doss give him the shove, and then something I never saw ever before, Keelan Doss pushed off and then dropped the pass and actually ended up getting picked off by Bronte Harris. Stock rose for him today, I think. Last week he got picked on. Today he got picked on. But you know what? I thought he really did a nice job hanging there, just like last week. But he's able to come away with an interception. That's always nice to see. Kareem Moore, I haven't really seen a ton of. Again, very quiet, but he is out there. That's also a good thing. I didn't see, someone just mentioned Robert Rochelle. I didn't see any of Rochelle. He was supposed to play and suit up. I didn't see any of him. It's just one of those things I have to go back and watch because you just can't see a ton. But I will say that Juju Hughes looks a lot better than everyone else in the back end of the secondary, as does J.R. Reed. And if you want to make the argument to keep a guy that maybe you didn't expect to keep, I think 100% the Rams have to consider keeping both of those safeties, despite having some outstanding depth, despite having potentially 4 starting caliber safeties in Burgess, in Rapp. You have Fuller and Nick Scott. But here's the thing. All 4 of them have had some sort of injury scare recently. Fuller missed games. Burgess was out for the year. Rapp missed games. And, of course, Scott is now, iffy for week 1. That's the argument I would give to keep those guys, Juju Hughes and J.R. Reed. You're not going to get them on the practice squad. You're not, because you know who's going to pick them up? I think Detroit Lions will pick them up. I mean, they worked hands-on with Aubrey Pleasant's group, so I don't feel confident that they would make it through waivers, but that's just me on that. Touched a lot on all of that. Final thoughts on the special teams I can't really say because unfortunately, while there was going to be this crazy punter battle, it looked like with Bajorquez versus Johnny Hecker. In case you did not know, due to COVID constraints, they were not able to play. So Matt Gay took the reins, and Matt Gay, if we're looking over here, had 4 punts for an average of 42, a long of 50. He got better each punt. I thought he looked good. I would say all in all, though, the Rams have a lot of good to come from this. I'll have to go back and watch the tape as far as the corners go, and just in general, I like going back and seeing the all-22 if it's there. But I don't feel too worried about the Rams. Aside from the offensive line, I would definitely say you want to see better. But the best thing that I can give you, the best hope, as far as uplifting motivation type of comments about the offensive line, is that when you have depth, and I said this during the stream, but if you missed it, when you have depth, okay, on the offensive line, if Ankrum is coming in, he's coming in to play with the offensive line. So he's not coming in with the group he played with tonight. Same thing with Evans, same thing with Chandler Brewer, any of those guys. You have to keep that in mind. So while obviously the backups didn't look great, I think Ankrum would look a lot better if he was playing next to Corbett, if he was playing next to Allen, if he was playing next to all those starters. I think Ankrum would look better. That's my point. And so I do think that's important to keep in mind, is that just because those guys come in and they're backups or what have you, does not mean the whole backup group is coming in to take over for the offensive line. So, yeah, all in all, there weren't a ton of injuries. I just wrapped up everything in a bow, I think. I'll take any questions that you guys may have. Might actually clip that and release it as a separate video to kind of just give, my thoughts to anyone who doesn't want to watch a nearly 4-hour-long watch party. But I mean, guys, you've been amazing. We're at 68 viewers right now. We had we're over 5,600 viewers in total for the stream. So it's been a fun time. I was really looking forward to this, and it did not disappoint.